Hey guys, today we're recapping a 2016 horror drama movie titled The Disappointments Room. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a small family, Dana Barrow, her husband David, and their young son Lucas, as they leave behind the busy city life to start fresh in the countryside, just like every typical horror movie. After a long day of travel, they finally arrive at their new home, a large but aging mansion they've recently purchased. David seems thrilled, flexing with main character energy, and Lucas appears excited too. But Dana is noticeably distant. Something about her expressions and quiet behavior tells us she's carrying a burden as heavy as unspoken family trauma. We'll soon learn what that is. Dana is an architect, and this old, worn-out estate feels more like a project than a home for her. She plans to renovate it while keeping herself occupied, perhaps as a way to escape the pain she's been holding inside. Not long ago, Dana and David lost their infant daughter, Catherine, in a tragic accident. Since then, Dana has been struggling with grief and depression. Her subscription to happiness clearly expired. The move to this quiet, isolated home was meant to offer peace, distance from the past, and maybe even healing, though the eerie atmosphere suggested otherwise. The next morning, Dana gets to work. Heavy rain pours outside, and she notices water leaking through the ceiling in a few places. She places pots to catch the drips like she's playing live-action version of Tetris. As she moves around, something strange catches her eye. A black dog sitting in the rain, staring silently at her through the window like it had beef with her bloodline. It doesn't move, and its stillness makes her clutch her butthole in fear. Later, while making breakfast, Dana hears Lucas talking to someone in his room. Concerned, she checks on him, worried he's invented an imaginary friend, or worse, started chatting with demons. But instead, she finds Lucas engaging in what could only be described as a diplomatic relations with a cat he discovered inside the house. Lucas begs to keep the cat with the desperation of a drug addict. And despite house rules that don't allow pets, Dana gives in after David casually supports the idea with all the wisdom of someone running on Wi-Fi and vibes. She agrees, more for Lucas's happiness than her own comfort. While taking photos of the backyard for her renovation project, Dana suddenly hears a strange noise behind her that sounded like Satan's side project was doing foreplay in the bushes. The bushes rustle violently, and something unseen moves quickly through them. Alarmed and with her heart pacing like a goat at Christmas, she rushes to tell David, but he brushes it off casually, saying it was probably just an animal. That kind of thing is normal out here, he tells her, with the confidence of someone who's clearly bad at math when it comes to assessing danger. Later, the family visits a nearby market to pick up supplies. There, they meet a shopkeeper named Maurice, who's clearly surprised to hear they've moved into the Blacker house. She warns them the place will need a lot of fixing and recommends a local handyman named Ben, probably because she smelled a rat about that cursed property. But Dana confidently replies that she's an architect and will manage the repairs herself, and by herself, she definitely means David. David, on the other hand, seems more laid back, helping out here and there as expected, and mostly focusing on watching over Lucas. Maurice notices this and seems a bit judgmental, perhaps due to her old-fashioned mindset that probably came with expired daddy issues. The next morning, Dana finds Lucas standing quietly by the window, visibly shaken like he'd seen his soul default on rent. He says the same black dog was outside again, staring at him with the intensity of a debt collector. But when Dana checks, no dog is in sight. Then Lucas shows her his hands covered in blood, and for a terrifying moment that made Dana's sweat roll down her spine to her smelly butt, she panics. But she quickly realizes it was just a nightmare, because her brain was clearly running a cock and bull story dipped in lies. Since losing her daughter, Dana has been plagued by vivid dreams and hallucinations, often waking up confused and shaken. That's also why she's been on medication, struggling to renew her subscription to sanity. This haunting dream reveals just how deeply Catherine's death affected her and why the family chose to leave the city for a quieter life. After a bad dream, Dana steps outside for some air and spots a strange symbol carved into a stone nearby. Upon closer look, she realizes it's a gravestone that looked like it had been decorated. But before she can think too much about it, a light suddenly switches on in the attic window. then quickly turns off like a drunk ex's DM sliding into her notifications. It's late, and no one should be up there. Suspicious, and with every instinct telling her this smelled like bad decision, Dana hurries to the attic to investigate, moving with all the grace of someone who brought a knife to a gunfight. She finds nothing at first, but then something catches her attention. From the outside, the attic clearly had a circular window, yet there's no window inside the room. That's when she realizes there must be a hidden room, possibly behind the large wardrobe. As she begins to move the wardrobe, we see a shadowy figure of a man standing behind her, Mr. Blacker himself, flexing his bald head like he owned the place. Dana herself doesn't notice. By the time she turns around, the figure is gone. The sound of furniture scraping draws David upstairs. Dana explains what she saw: the attic light, the missing window, with the frantic energy of someone whose emotional stability had just folded like laundry. Together, they manage to move the wardrobe and discover a sealed door hidden behind it, looking as ominous as Satan's personal workshop. Dana tries to open it, but it's locked tight as a debt collector's grip. She peeks through the keyhole, but sees nothing. Yet, when she turns away, we see that someone is inside, probably rubbing their nipples in the dark like the demon they clearly are. Dana wanted to open the door, but David, always joking around like someone with tag-along energy, told her to leave it for now since it was getting late. The next morning, Dana takes out the house blueprints and resumes her work with the determination of someone trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. While going through some items, she finds old photographs of the previous owner, the same man we briefly saw standing behind her the night before. Dana also notices the same black dog in one of the photos, the one she saw outside earlier, which leaves her unsettled. Later, while setting a kitchen timer and cleaning up, she opens a drawer and finds a tin box filled with old keys that looked like they'd unlock every nook and stanky cranny of this house's dark secrets. Dana thinks one of the old keys might open the locked attic room, so she heads upstairs to try them with the optimism of someone clearly bad at reading horror movie warning signs. None of them work until she checks above the doorframe and finds a hidden key. To her relief, it fits like the final piece of a puzzle nobody should have been trying to solve. Inside, the room is completely empty, but as soon as she steps in, the door slams shut behind her. She tries to open it, but it won't budge. Suddenly, a heavy sense of fear takes over, and she's sweating like a pig in a bacon factory. She cries for help, but no one hears her. Her voice probably got lost somewhere between her panic and the house's apparent Bluetooth connection from hell. Then come the hallucinations, visions of Mr. Blacker, his wife, and their suffering daughter, all looking like they'd been having the worst family dinner in history. Dana runs to the window and calls out to David, but her voice seems trapped in the room. Terrified and exhausted, she eventually falls asleep. When she wakes up, it's pitch dark, as if hours have passed faster than her mental stability was declining. Then, in the silence, she hears a little girl whisper softly, "He doesn't want you here. He doesn't want you here." Suddenly, the door unlocks by itself, and Dana bolts out in a panic, running for her shitty life. But to her surprise, it's still morning outside, and she's more confused than a goat in high heels. Crying like a fat baby, she tells David she was trapped all day and no one came to help, even though she screamed for hours. David is confused. He says he saw her just moments ago, and even the kitchen timer she set earlier goes off right on time, proving only minutes had passed. Now Dana begins to question herself, her grip on reality slipping faster than her confidence in this house move. It felt like she was gone for hours, but maybe her mental struggles, the ones she faced after losing Catherine, are coming back again in this house. A few days later, Dana begins having strange dreams. In them, she finds herself in the attic, watching Mr. Blacker shouting like a chihuahua, as if he has a little girl locked in the room, scaring and controlling her. In the dream, the girl whispers to Dana, "He won't let us leave." The nightmares disturb Dana deeply, making her realize her hopes of a peaceful sleep had clearly been dashed. She starts believing that the medication might be messing with her mind worse than bad Wi-Fi, so she flushes it down the toilet and stops taking it. Another bad decision. Despite her fear, Dana tries to stay close to Lucas, treating him more gently. We also see that David hasn't fully moved on from their daughter Catherine's death either, carrying his own emotional baggage. One morning, Dana sees a kite outside and follows it like someone whose curiosity had clearly skipped therapy. That's when she meets Ben, the handyman David had called to repair the roof. Ben is ready to begin, but Dana says she'll contact him after thinking things through. He leaves quietly, probably sensing the tension was thick. Later, Dana goes back to studying files about the Blacker family with the obsession of someone who clearly brought detective skills to a haunted house situation. She finds that Mr. Blacker's daughter had a serious heart condition and supposedly died shortly after birth. But what stuns her is the birth date, July 5th, the same day her own daughter Catherine was born. This coincidence shakes Dana really hard. She tells David about it and says she feels Mr. Blacker's daughter is still in the house, probably doing some supernatural networking. She wants to leave immediately, but David refuses. He reminds her that the doctor had recommended they stay somewhere peaceful for at least a year to recover, clearly operating under the assumption that peaceful included potential ghost roommates. He tries to calm her, saying it's all in her head, like some twisted game of mental Tetris. When he asks if she's still taking her meds, Dana lies, saying yes, as her grip on reality was becoming questionable. The next day, David leaves for a short 2-day trip to the city for work, leaving Dana alone in the house just as expected in every horror movie. While David is away, Dana visits a local historian named Miss Judith and asks her about the strange attic room, describing the metal floor, thick glass window, and door that can only be opened from the outside. Miss Judith immediately recognizes it as a disappointments room, and her explanation hits Dana like a slap into next week. She explains that in the past, wealthy families, often driven by superstitions and social shame, built these secret rooms to hide children who were born with disabilities. If a child was considered physically or mentally unfit, the family would feel embarrassed and lock the child away in that hidden space, treating them like their subscription to family love had expired. Only the parents and a trusted servant knew the truth about these human storage units. These children grew up in complete isolation. No education, no friends, no outside world. They spent their entire lives inside those four walls, and after death were buried in unmarked graves, erased from memory because they were seen as disappointments, and their existence is quickly forgotten like a New Year's resolutions. Dana is shocked and disturbed by this dark history, her heart probably pacing faster than someone running from their landlord in public. Back at home, she sees Ben working on repairs. This time, she gives him some tasks, and they have a brief conversation that's less frosty than before. Later, while reading more about these rooms and the children kept inside them, Dana becomes emotional, probably feeling like her soul was doing some unwanted historical empathy exercises. The thought of children being hidden, neglected, and forgotten hits her deeper than her own guilt, making her realize these disappointment rooms were real torture chambers disguised as family solutions. While rarely discussed, cases of children being locked away due to disability have surfaced in documented records, proving that humanity's capacity for cruelty sometimes comes with architectural blueprints. Suddenly, Dana hears a loud bang from her office door, and when she rushes out, Lucas is missing. We see Lucas wandering into the attic where he sees a young girl, probably the ghostly equivalent of a playdate from hell. Dana searches the house with the panic of someone whose parental instincts had just been promoted and ends up at the disappointments room. There she sees the same little girl who tells her name is Laura, the daughter of Mr. Blacker. A revelation that sends chills down Dana's spine to her smelly butthole. Hearing this makes Dana freeze in shock like someone who just realized they'd been living in a historical trauma museum. But when she steps into the room to look again, the girl is gone, like she'd bolted. This moment confirms something big. Laura didn't die as a baby like the records claimed. She was born with a disability, and Mr. Blacker locked her in the disappointments room to hide her from the world like she was some shameful family secret that needed its own zip code. Even though Laura's mother wanted to raise her, Mr. Blacker treated both mother and daughter with cruelty and shame, his parenting skills apparently as bad as his moral compass. Whether Dana is seeing real spirits or experiencing intense hallucinations, that part is still unclear. Her brain was clearly running some advanced horror software. But what's certain is that the house is hiding a terrible past, and Dana is being pulled deeper into it. Dana looks out the attic window and sees Lucas playing outside. But then she spots the same black dog standing behind him, staring silently like it had been assigned as Lucas's personal Grim Reaper. Panicked, and with her maternal instincts kicking in harder than a repo man, she rushes downstairs, afraid the dog may have decided to turn her son into its next chew toy. Luckily, Lucas is unharmed, but Dana makes a horrifying discovery that would make anyone's heart sink. Lucas's cat has been brutally killed, as if mauled by a wild animal. While running through the house, Dana accidentally bumps into a mirror, breaking it. Behind the shattered glass, she finds hidden paintings of Mr. and Mrs. Blacker, their faces looking like crime scenes that needed their own police tape. As she stares at them, the film shows us a painful flashback that hits harder than emotional trauma with a sledgehammer. Dana once tried to unalive herself after Catherine's death, which led to her being put on medication. Her subscription to hope had clearly expired back then. Later, when Ben comes over to work, Dana asks him to dig under the gravestone in the backyard to see what's buried there, probably hoping to solve the mystery before it solved her. As Ben begins digging, he uncovers what looks like a child's grave. But before he can investigate further, something, possibly Blacker's ghost flexing his bald head, hits him on the head, sending him straight to meet Jesus personally. In her frustration and emotional chaos, Dana later takes the Blacker family paintings and burns them like she was trying to exorcise demons through arts and crafts. Meanwhile, we learn that David's trip to the city wasn't for work. He'd been lying smoother than a cheating boyfriend covering his tracks. He went to see Dana's doctor, who advised that she needed companionship and support, not just distance from reality and human interaction. It's also revealed that this day is their late daughter Catherine's birthday, a fact that probably hit David's emotions like a freight train loaded with guilt and regret. Wanting to comfort Dana, David comes home early and brings friends to the house with the optimism of someone clearly bad at reading the room's supernatural temperature. But Dana, overwhelmed by emotions and running on grief with a side of unprocessed trauma, lashes out. She feels David is pretending everything is fine while she's still drowning in grief, her emotional state folded like laundry that nobody wanted to deal with. She breaks down, confessing that she doesn't feel like a good mother and is still haunted by guilt. Soon after, Dana runs back to the backyard grave and discovers Laura's skeletal remains, confirming that this house's dark history was as real as her deteriorating mental state. But when she turns around, she's horrified to see Ben's body hanging lifelessly from a tree like some twisted Halloween decoration. Panicking, and with her maternal instincts on full emergency mode, she races back into the house and searches for Lucas, but he's missing. Fearing the worst, she rushes to the attic faster than her Tesla legs could carry her. There, she sees a chilling vision of the past that would make horror movie directors weep like giant babies. Mr. Blacker violently ending Laura's subscription to life with a hammer while his wife begs him to stop. But to Blacker, Laura was nothing more than a disappointment, and he unalived her without remorse. The ghost of Mr. Blacker now turns to Dana, taunting her with words as sharp as a mother-in-law's insults. "You're a bad mother. You let your daughter die, and now you'll fail to save your son too." Terrified and with her rage burning hot, Dana grabs a hammer and runs toward Lucas's room, desperate to protect him from whatever horror she believes is coming next. Meanwhile, David tries to get inside the house, unaware that chaos had broken loose upstairs. In Dana's mind, it looks like Blacker is about to harm Lucas, so she charges in with a hammer, ready to send someone straight to bake violence cakes in hell. But just then, David enters the room, and the truth hits harder than reality with a sledgehammer. No one was there. If he'd arrived seconds later, Dana might have hurt her own son, thinking she was saving him from a threat that existed only in her trauma-soaked brain. David quickly grabs Lucas and pulls him away, his protective instincts kicking in faster than his ability to process what just almost happened. Furious and shaken, Dana is left stunned, her grip on reality finally packing up in the worst possible way. Suddenly, She remembers she never burned any paintings. No one attacked Ben, and everything she's been seeing might not have been real. Her brain had apparently been running a horror movie simulation. She realizes she's been losing her grip on reality, unable to tell what's true and what isn't, her mental state as reliable as a Tesla Cybertruck with no batteries. Her trauma didn't just come from Catherine's death. It came from the fact that she accidentally smothered her, a guilt that turned her into a prisoner of her own mind. She had already read about Blacker's story earlier. Her brain had just built it into a terrifying narrative, blurring fact with hallucination like some twisted psychological remix. There were no ghosts, only grief, guilt, and the weight of history pressing down on her sanity. Still, David, being a caring husband, gently reminds her it was an accident, and she's not a bad mother. But after everything, he no longer wants to stay in the house. Maybe Dana doesn't need isolation. Maybe she needs people who can truly help her heal instead of letting her subscription to mental health expire in a haunted house. As they prepare to leave, Dana catches one last glimpse of Mr. Blacker's ghost in the house, still flexing his smelly bald head like he owned the place. Whether it's real or not doesn't matter now. It's a reminder her trauma isn't fully gone, and some subscriptions to healing take longer to renew than others. And with that, the film comes to a quiet, haunting close, leaving us all wondering if some houses are just too full of history's nightmares to ever truly be homes. That's it for this recap, guys. Remember not to move into new houses, especially when you are unstable. That's how horror movies starts. Like and subscribe to support our channel. See you in the next recap.